Hi, everybody. Yesterday, I covered the opening statements in the case of South Carolina versus Zachary Hughes for the murder of Christina Purcell. So what happened after the opening statements? Stay tuned after this video. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Rebecca, your host of Crafting and Crime Daily. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and if you're already subscribed, consider becoming a member. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, what happened after those brief opening statements? The state puts on 14 witnesses. Now, if you're new to this case, this is part 2. This is the second episode. I covered basically what this case is about yesterday, but I will give you a little recap. On October 13th of 2021, Christina Purcell was murdered in her sister's home where she was living with her daughter. So the three of them had this home they were living in together. Christina was a veterinary technician and had a boyfriend, Brad Post. Brad Post is the one that discovered her body. He had tried to call her shortly before the body was discovered. She was not answering her phone, so he goes over to check on her at her house, and he enters through the back door and finds her lying in the front living room. She is deceased, and she is got rose petals all around her body. So the investigation begins, and then it leads 6 days after this investigation starts. It leads to the arrest of Brad Post, the victim's boyfriend, but not for the murder, for sexual exploitation of a minor, which included one little girl plus the victim's daughter, who was 9 years old at this time. And they had been dating for 6 years. But from what I understand, she was apparently involved in this exploitation. This is all based on evidence that was found during the investigation of the murder when they got a search warrant for the home. They found pictures, video, and this video included the victim participating. Crazy, huh? But in November, you're going to find out today how this occurred, how it came about that Zachary Hughes was arrested. So let's get into it, shall we? So the first thing, 14 witnesses, like I said, the first one was a 911 operator who we got to hear the 911 call. So I'm going to play for you. This is Brad Post. He is the one that discovers the body. He calls 911. Here's the call.
Family Fire. What's the address of the emergency?
122
Canebrake Drive. And what's another street? Your Canebrake Drive.
I don't know. Southgate Drive.
Okay. In Greer.
Yes.
All right. The phone number you're calling.
I'm sorry.
The phone number you're calling from.
864-436-2499.
864-436-2499. And has anyone testified with COVID-19 or been put COVID-19 positive? No. Thank you.
I just walked in. I can't reach my fiance. I come in the back door. She's in the bed there. I smell some weird smell. And she's flat out on the floor.
Okay. You smell a weird smell and she's flat on the floor?
Yes.
Okay. Just one moment.
I think I tell you, my list says it.
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay. Then we need to get her, turn her over, make sure she's flat on her back, nothing under her neck. You have something to put over her nose and mouth, and we're going to start CPR, sir.
Okay, I think she's gone.
You think she's gone?
Yeah.
Okay. And what makes you think she's gone?
What about the place in the CPR?
I'm sorry.
What do I do? I don't want
Well, wait, we're going to put her flat on her back, and then I'm going to walk you through the steps to do that. If you think that she's able to do the CPR, then we can. I have no problem walking you through that.
It looks like there's brain matter everywhere. It looks like there's
There's brain matter everywhere.
It looks like it's a thing that's shocking out. I don't know.
Like somebody has shot her? Okay. All right. Do you think that she's not identifiable? Okay, so look, so tell me why you think she's dead.
So you won't respond,
You won't
eyes
respond?
open,
Eyes are open? Okay, all right,
there's a lot of blood.
and a lot of blood, okay.
Anyway, the flowers, like somebody must have come here,
Uh-huh,
and the sunglasses were knocked off, it looks like in the hallway.
okay,
But the smell is very,
okay. All right, give me just a moment here, sir. Give me just a moment. So it looks like somebody may have broke in and shot her in the head.
me, I don't know.
Okay, I understand. Okay, I'm sorry, say it again.
Somebody here, no.
I've got some people coming, sir. Do you see anybody, still nearby, an assailant or anything? No?
No.
All right. The front door was locked? Okay,
After the woman, I'm like, I walked on, you didn't find my car,
yes,
I came over, and then I came back, I smelled this weird smell.
right,
And I walked in, I could see there's like a red smell.
yes. Okay, I have everybody coming. I'm sending the paramedics to help now. Stay on the line. I'll say exactly what to do next. Make sure to not, move anything, leave everything as it is.
Yeah.
And, if you can, just go ahead and step out of the house, and that way, wait for the, paramedics and the police at the front of the house. Yeah, I would go back out the way you came to, keep the scene as it is.
Yeah.
And then if they want to go through the front when they get there, then they'll let you know, but I'd go back out the same way that you came in and leave everything as you found it.
Yeah, I think it's coming out, I don't think it's coming out on the,
Yeah, okay, leave it, just however it is right now, just walk out, you can let them know you didn't know if you turned it on or off, but just leave it as it is right this moment.
the thing is really, really, really smell.
Oh, really weird.
Yeah, almost, chemical,
Like a gas or a chemical? Or like a gas smell?
no, it's more like something with just a pesticide.
A pesticide smell? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead and get out the door and go to the front and wait for them at the front, of the house. Leave everything as it is. Is there anything else that I could do for you, sir?
No,
All right, I've got them all coming. All right, thank you. Sir, this is
He doesn't sound very distraught, does he? Not going to do CPR because, she can't be saved. She had been stabbed 31 times about the head and neck and arms. So after that, the second witness is the initial responding officer. He gets to the scene. We get to see his body cam footage, and I'm going to show it to you, but notice that there is no sound.
So what is that there?
That's us arriving on scene, or me arriving on scene, to 122 Cambridge.
All right, and so is that the first time you saw this location?
Yes, sir.
And are those the two cars right there that you can see the silver one in the front?
Correct. Yes, sir.
And there was a red one behind it, I believe. Is that where you encountered Mr. Post?
Yes, sir, initially.
And what is Mr. Post doing?
He was making a phone call. I'm not sure exactly who he was on the phone with. And we're just I'm getting basic information from him, kind of figured out what was going on, kind of what he saw, and what.
Are you gathering information from Mr. Post?
Yeah, just basic information, try to figure out exactly what we have.
Now you have audio on your body camera, don't you?
Yes, sir.
All right. We're not playing the audio for these purposes.
Okay. So yeah, just basic information, trying to figure out, when was the last time you talked to her, things like that. I could see that he was, dressed nicely. He wasn't, there's nothing on him like where there's been a struggle or anything like that too. So he didn't seem like he was in a hurry. So it seemed like she was deceased, just according to his body language. if that makes sense.
And so where are you going down here? The side of the house?
Yes, sir. He pointed us to the back. This is the back door. He said that that was always unlocked, and that's where he made entry. So this is where we decided to go because we knew that this door was more than likely unlocked, having good access to the house.
So is this your first entry into the house?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Why don't we get to hear the sound? Because Brad Post asked for a lawyer. Brad Post said he wasn't comfortable talking to the officer. Interesting. Then the third witness is Brad Post in his orange jumpsuit, takes the stand. He is still behind bars, pending these sexual exploitation of a minor charges that he has pled not guilty to. He is innocent until proven guilty. So the judge had ruled yesterday, or the day before yesterday, that no one would be allowed to ask him what were those pending charges. Now, you can ask about convictions. If someone's been convicted of something, you can ask them about that. It goes towards their credibility. But the judge has said, no, you can't ask him about pending charges. He's innocent until proven guilty. But he's got the orange jumpsuit on. So right out of the box, the state asked him, where are you residing? And he kind of laughed. He's, in the detention center. You are being charged with a crime. Yes, I am. And you've pled not guilty. Yes, I have. That's it. That's all all the jury gets to know about why he's in that orange jumpsuit. Now, if you knew nothing about this case, if I hadn't told you it was sexual exploitation of a minor, what would you be thinking as a juror? Oh, it must have something to do with this case, right? But he must have been involved somehow, right? Did he hire Zach Hughes? Like what is going? Jurors have no idea because the opening statements were like zip, zilch, nada. Didn't tell them a thing. Okay. So Brad goes on to explain that they had been dating for 6 years, on and off, engaged on and off for 6 years, since 2016. He originally met her 20 years before that in her father's cigar bar. This reminds me of a book I read where the woman falls in love with her father's best friend. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. So he was basically her sugar daddy. He was paying some of her bills. He gave her a phone, but he had a clone of that phone. And she also had her own phone. So she was carrying 2 phones. He had the app on there where he could see where she was at, find my friend, or I don't know. I don't have that app. So he gave her a Lexus so she could use, one of his cars. I gave her a Lexus. Yeah. So, and the reason he had a clone phone was so in case she missed paying any of her bills, he would pay the bills. So interesting. So, his statement, this is a direct quote, what he said on the stand. John Mello kidnapped her daughter and went to Italy. Okay. Now we know later on that we find out that he was exonerated. John Mello, when he gets back to the country after the murder, who's John Mello? I'm sorry. John Mello is the father of this young child that lived in the home with Christina, who's her daughter. They've named her. I'm not going to because she's still a minor. And she's the victim of this sexual exploitation charge and a pending civil lawsuit against Brad Post. So in any case, John Mello had taken Christine's daughter to Italy. He didn't come back. She gets the daughter back about 6 months later. But he doesn't come back from Italy when the daughter does. He comes back after the murder. So Brad goes on to explain that the morning of the murder, he had been on the phone with Christina. She was on her way to a job interview. She gets to the place and the phone conversation cuts off. After that, he says, I just, what were you doing? I was, at my house. I was cleaning house, doing laundry, dishes, just tooling around. Then just before 11, he starts to call her again, figuring the interview's over. Let me check on her. He's calling. She's not answering. And So he decides he's going to go to where she's residing, and he knocks on the front door. There's no answer. Now he knows that she leaves the back door unlocked. So he goes around to the back door, and he finds the body.
I thought I should probably go over and see how she's doing.
And did you do that?
I did.
How did you get there?
I drove my car,
What kind of car did you drive?
Mercedes.
Is it red?
Yes,
When you drove there, where'd you park it?
in their driveway.
And when you arrived to 122 Canebrake, what did you do?
I went to the front door and rang the doorbell.
And were you able to enter?
No, she didn't answer.
So then what did you do?
I walked around the back door because frequently they'd leave the back door unlocked. And I walked into the back door.
This jury just saw the body camera of Chris Robinson. Did you see him go in the house?
See who?
Deputy Chris Robinson, the officer who you spoke to, the first person you spoke to on scene.
I may have, but I don't recall who he was because there were several people.
And the door that he used, was it the door that you used to enter? Do you know what door he used?
I think they went to the front door. No, they might have gone to the back door. That's right.
Is that the door that you used to enter
Yes,
the house?
yes.
So you did enter the house?
Again, I'm not sure whether it was the front door or the back door that they entered.
And so, what did you do when you walked inside the house?
It was dark, quiet, and so I walked back to, down the hallway to see if she was in the bathroom or a shower, and it was all dark. And I looked on the floor, and right at the entrance of the living room and off that hallway, there were petals from like a rose. And as I looked into the room, and I saw her on her back.
And when you saw her on her back, was there a lot of blood around the room?
Yes.
What did you do?
I walked over and yelled at her and then called 911.
So after this footage is shown, he's shown 4 envelopes by the prosecutor. And the prosecutor says, do you recognize what's in these envelopes? He looks in the envelopes, or you recognize the envelope, you recognize what was in them. What was in them was naked pictures of the victim. So of these 4 envelopes, one had been received by a friend of his. He had received one of them. One went to another address that he had, and like various people got these envelopes. So once that occurred, he contacted law enforcement, and he met with law enforcement and the Postmaster General to talk about these photographs. And he thought that the victim's ex-husband or ex-boyfriend, I'm not sure if they were ever married, her and John Mello, that he was behind this, the pictures. But he was in Italy, and these were coming from Italy, these envelopes. They were coming from the United States, so he just didn't know who was mailing them, but he figured this guy, John Mello, was probably behind it. So at the time of the murder, he says they were engaged. When she came back from Italy with her daughter, she went over to Italy twice. The second time she does come back with her daughter, and that's the daughter's taken to Italy in October of 2020. Comes back in April of 2021. This murder is in October of 2021. So in April of 2021, when she comes back, now everybody's at the airport, friends, family, we're all here to see, the child come back from Italy safe and sound, even though she was with her father who had full custody. And he proposes, gives her a big diamond ring. So now they're engaged. And at the time of the murder, she had on this diamond ring. So right away we're going, robbery's not the motive. You didn't take the diamond ring. Okay. So, and that's going to be a big question in this case. What was the motive here? And he was asked on cross-examination, you're aware that John Mello was exonerated for taking his daughter to Italy? And he's like, yeah, I'm aware of that. Okay. Then we had the next witness is practice manager for Valley Walk Animal Hospital, which is where Christina Purcell had the job interview that day. It was at 8:30 in the morning, and Christina was on time, and she left at 8:47. And they know this because there's video footage. We don't get to see that footage, but they have video inside the animal hospital, and they could see her arriving and then leaving at 8:47. Then the next person on the stand was a forensic evidence technician. She responded to the murder scene and was tasked with taking buccal swabs, which is where you go inside the mouth to get DNA samples from Bradley Post, the boyfriend, because you're always going to suspect the boyfriend, who's not that upset at the murder scene. But I will point out the initial responding officer said he wasn't too worried about Bradley Post because he had on a shirt with this sport coat over it. And, if you're going to stab somebody 31 times, you're going to have some blood on you. He didn't have anything on. He was clean and neat, but not too upset. And he was on the phone with somebody when the police arrived, but we don't know who that he was on the phone with. Then the next person on the stand was a homicide detective. He was tasked with obtaining a search warrant, bringing it out to the house. When he gets there the afternoon of the murder, now several people have gone into the house. They've done photographs. They're processing the scene. But after all that's done, he's tasked with an additional search, not really a search, but collecting the evidence that's been photographed and everything. And what was pointed out to him as something that had been seen earlier by one of the technicians is this little white baggie. Now, this guy had previously to working in the homicide division, had worked in the narcotics division. And he's like, that looks like narcotics to me. He field tested it, and it was presumptive positive for cocaine. It was sent to the lab. The next witness is the drug analyzer. She said it was positive for cocaine, and it was just short of 5 grams. I don't know how they measure cocaine. Not ounces. No, that'd be a lot. But anyway, it's a little baggy, Anyway. So then witnesses 8, 9, 10, and 11, the next 4 witnesses are neighbors of Christina Purcell and her sister Tina. And these are people that all had ring camera footage. So they were brought in on the stand to say, is this from your camera? Where do you live? How far, where is that in relation to her house? So we get through those pretty quickly, but we don't see any of the footage. They don't show anything. He just gets it into evidence. But then he brings in a SLED officer. Now, I remember SLED from the Murdaugh case, South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. That's every state has a law enforcement division. In Florida, it's FDLE. And, in South Carolina, it's SLED. So this is a tech agent from SLED, and he was tasked with taking all this ring camera footage. It was given to him by law enforcement, and he was asked to enhance this and do still footage from some of the video, which he did. So he got 7 photos from one ring camera, 6 photos from another ring camera. And in the middle of his testimony, this alarm goes off, and everybody's looking around because it doesn't sound like a cell phone. He's like, oh, sorry, that's my blood sugar. So that was interesting. So that was a little chuckle. So that's all entered into evidence. We still don't get to see the photos. We don't get to see any of that. Not yet. I'm like on the edge of my seat here. I want to see these photos. So then we get the Gladys Kravitz of the neighborhood. She is witness number 13. She's having her morning coffee. Oh, by the way, I need a sip of coffee. I crochet, so I don't kill people. Yeah. Anyway, she is looking out her window. That's what she does. She likes to watch out for the neighborhood. Little retired lady, like me. And she saw the child. She didn't really know Christina, but She knew that this child every day left at 7:30. So at 7:30, she saw the child leaving for school. She had her little backpack on. But about 8:15, she must have been on her second cup of coffee by then. She sees someone on the bike, and he's like between these two trees. And she's like, he was wearing all black. He had on a black hoodie. Now, she said, I thought it was gray, but no, it was black. It was black. I've seen the photos. It was black. I thought, which was it? And that's important because that's coming up. Something that will actually add credibility to what she's saying here. He was on a black bike. He had a white mask. He had on a hood, and she was asked on cross-examination, was it a hat or was it a hood? It was a hood. And he was standing between some trees, and she did see, obviously she saw the bike. She said it was black. Then she was shown a photograph of this guy on the bike that's obtained from one of the Ring cameras. And she said, she was asked, is this the person that you saw? And she said, yes, this is who I saw. Now all you can see is this guy with dark clothing on. You don't even know if it's a guy. It could be a tall woman. You could see that they had some height to them. And she kept saying, oh, so scary. It was so scary. So scary that she never calls the police. She doesn't come forward about this for 3 years. I think she did talk to an officer when it first happened, when they were investigating that day and canvassing the neighborhood, but they don't sit down to talk to her for 3 years. Then she was asked, do you see the guy that was on the bicycle in the courtroom? Oh, yes, that's him. That's him. How do you know? He had all this stuff on. I can't tell that it's the guy sitting over there. That was a little gratuitous, I thought, because as a juror, I wouldn't put any weight into that whatsoever. Then the last witness of the day was a Greenville County homicide detective. At the time, he's now in a different division, but at the time he was a homicide detective. He responded to the murder scene, and by the time he gets there's a lot of people there, but he was tasked with canvassing the neighborhood, or being in charge of the canvas. He had 6 people going out and canvassing the neighborhood. So based on all of his testimony, I put together this timeline of what he collected and what was seen on various Ring camera footages brought in by those earlier witnesses. And at 8:07, there is footage of the victim pulling out of the driveway in her vehicle. At 8:15, this is when Gladys, I don't know what her real name is, she's having her coffee. She sees this guy. At 8:35, there's video footage of the sister's car, Tina, backing out of the driveway. And we know also at 8:30 that the victim is having this job interview at the animal hospital. At 9:07, there's footage of the victim's vehicle passing a neighbor's house going towards her own home. At 9:12 a.m., we see the victim pulling into the driveway. She arrives back home. At 9:15 a.m., we see the defendant stepping into the home. Well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. We see a person in this garb stepping into the home. But to my mind, he had on a gray shirt. He wasn't wearing a black hoodie. And I got to say that there was several angles for these photographs. There's 4 or 5 photographs, stills taken out of the video. So one right after the other. But at some point, I thought I saw that, like, the angle of his profile looked like the defendant, I thought. So he is entering the home through the front door. Just 3 minutes after she gets home. Can you imagine? You get home. What's the first thing you do? You got to go pee, right? You got to go to the bathroom. You just had this job interview and, So meanwhile, somebody's coming in your front door. Anyway. So 12 minutes later, there is footage at 9:27 of a bicycle. And I will show you that picture. This is on another Ring camera. heading away from the home. At 9:28 on a different Ring camera, again, this bicycle, here it is, heading away from the home. And then at 10:57, we know that Brad Post arrives at the home and he discovers the body. That's where the day ends, folks. So I'm going to cover day 2 of this testimony. Let me know what you think of the evidence so far. How do we know this was him? I will say that this guy, the Greenville County homicide detective, said they determined he was a white male. And he was asked, well, how do you know he was a white male? Because on the bicycle, you can see like just a little bit of his neck, and you can see that he's got a beard and that he's light skinned. So that's how they determined that they were dealing with a white male. Also because of his stature, very, large, tall person. So that's it for today. Have a great day. I'll see you in tomorrow's video. I'm going to be live tonight. Craft with me Wednesday. I'm getting out a new craft. It's not new to me, cross stitch, but what's new about it is I'm going to be cross stitching on some clothing, which I've never done before. And I also have some friend mail to unveil. So tune in. That's at 7 p.m. I'll see you then. Bye.